Well, hello and welcome to the GMIHub online. We're so glad you could join us tonight. Tonight, we're going to be talking about something really important for artists. We're talking about prepping your voice for recording in the studio. But before we get to that, I wanted to welcome you to GMIHub online. In this channel, we have a plethora of different videos. We have libraried for you. Please go check them out. And right now, if you wouldn't mind, maybe if you have a friend of yours who is a musician or an artist who might benefit from this, let them know. Share the experience and let them know what's going on so they can journey with us as we open this subject. Also, I want to let you know about our website, gmihub.ca. It's a place you can go and visit and find out more about what's going on with the GMI Hub. And also, we have an interesting thing. Down at the bottom is a couple of links. One is called Hub Happenings. Now, Hub Happenings is simply a once a month we send out a newsletter on email. So you can know what's happening in the GMI Hub. And if you're an artist or a person who's producing an event and you want somebody to know about it, let us know. Give us permission to put it in our Hub Happenings. And when those monthly letters go out, your event will be promoted through the GMI Hub. And we just want to do that as a service to you, no charge. We want to thank you so much for watching and take the time to like this video and subscribe if you haven't done already. That would mean a lot to us. Thank you so much. Okay, before we get into this, I also want to let you remind, just before we get going, about the Christmas compilation CD, which is coming up this year. We did one last year, and we're going to do one again this year. And we have our submissions should be in by July 13th to get all that stuff worked out. And we're looking forward to all those submissions coming in. And there's the graphic for you. And so when your song comes in, we're going to give it some of the criteria. We'll go through with you. And if it passes, then we're going to have an opportunity to put it onto the compilation. And we're looking forward to that this year. It's going to be a really exciting thing for us as we come closer to Christmas next Christmas. All right, so let's start off by saying we've got Paul and Noreen coming up, and Cheryl's going to tell you more about them, and they're also going to tell you more about themselves. I'll just tell you that my name is Dale Borland.
And I'm Cheryl Dewick. So glad to see you all here, and so glad that we have Noreen and Paul here with us. We are going to be focusing here on prepping your voice for your next studio session. I know that's that time of the year, and just as we were talking about, people are writing songs for our Christmas compilation, or you may be just writing songs for whatever project you're working on. We know that the next stage will be to go to the studio, and you know, if I can say this, please do not depend on your music, your sound engineer to do all the work for you to make you sound good. You have a part in this too. So that's why we have Noreen Smith from The Connected Voice. She is a vocal technician. We've had her here before back in the fall, and she was filled with so much information that everyone valued, and I think you're going to enjoy having her back again. Thank you so much, Noreen, for being here.
Thank you.
And we also have Paul McKay, Paul J. McKay of One Voice Music Academy. We had Paul with us actually when we were meeting in person and talking about how successful he was in social media. But I learned after that he was quite the vocalist and really, really well known for, and I think I may say this right, riffs and runs. Is that correct, Paul? Is it riffs and
Yeah,
runs?
that's an area of specialization
Yes.
for me. Yeah.
Yes. So we wanted Paul to come on because I just thought it would really, really, really be cool to just hear his perspective on prepping your voice, and especially if you're planning to do those riffs and runs. If you don't know what I mean by that, I mean those, I'll call it the vocal exercises in your songs. You know, so glad, Paul, that you're able to join us again tonight.
Wonderful to be here.
Awesome. So first question I'm going to come up with is actually a statement. And I'm going to pretend I'm a vocalist coming to you going, help, I don't like my voice. What do I need to do? What would you guys say to this person who comes in saying, I don't like my voice. How should I make it sound better?
Oh, wow. Who's going to answer that first?
You want to start, Paul?
Oh, well, I mean, okay, sure. Goodness, it's loaded. It's loaded.
Yeah.
That's loaded because I don't like my voice. That's it's personal, right?
Yeah.
And there could be a variety of reasons for that. Gosh, by the same token, somebody could say I don't like my face. You know what I mean? It's the same type of, and the same issues would be involved with. It's about self-acceptance for one thing.
Yeah.
You'd have to think about what portions of your own critique of yourself is entirely objective and what portion is subjective. You know what I mean? As a voice coach, I would have to be really sensitive about approaching something like that. Keeping in mind an objective approach as well as, subject to themselves, because maybe they're a perfectionist, maybe they have, higher standards for themselves but at the same time, their voice it's exactly what God intended it to be, and perfectly appropriate for their gift and to push their ministry. You know what I mean? So it's multifaceted, that particular how to approach it. It's goodness.
There's not one straight answer. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's like what do I tell you? Look, what should I say? Okay, yeah, I'm a voice coach. I'll get your voice exactly to where you want it. Like, you know what I mean? I can go the marketing direction and just
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
spread it on real thick and just say, yeah, we'll work this out. Yeah.
Yeah. So goodness, if you don't like your voice, you're going to have to work on self-acceptance. I'll just stop there. And anything objective that I can pick up, I will help you with if I happen to be helping on the project. Or I can certainly just maybe offer some tips. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe the other voice coach will have more to say.
Noreen, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing I would just keep in mind is I would look at what's behind this. Is there an actual issue going on, or is it a self-acceptance thing? I think you're absolutely right with that. As far as looking at the voice as a completely technical, mechanical thing, there's some parts of the voice that you just have to live with, because that's how you're designed. I mean, the vocal tract, the sound that you produce is based on the size and shape of your vocal tract, from where the vocal cords are, the size and shape of your trachea, and then the size and shape of your mouth. Like, that dictates your final product. However, that you can't change, that you're born with. However, there are ways that we can manipulate, and I'll give like I'll try to be quick, but I mean, there's so much. I literally could do like a probably 40-minute lecture on it. Like, there's so many things. I'll try to just get it into a few small ideas. But when someone comes to me and says, I just don't like the sound of my voice, there's usually issues like there's some squeezing, so they have a really thin sound, or they're always singing off key, and there's a lot of tension, and it's also usually kind of uncomfortable in a lot of ways. So I think of the voice as like, the woofer and the tweeter on your speakers. So the tweeter manages, the high frequencies and the harmonics, and the woofer manages the lower ones. And physically in the voice, actually, the area from the vocal cords to the back of the tongue is your woofer. And there's some level of control that we have over that. And then the area inside the mouth from the tongue to the, tip of the teeth is our tweeter. And so there are some aspects we can control by adjusting these two areas, where we can get, I think we can always get to a sound that they're like, oh, I didn't know I could sound like that. Like, I like that way better. So if there's a combination of managing the emotional side of why don't you like your voices? Is there, or does someone, I have had people just come in and say, every time I sang when I was a kid, my mom told me to be quiet. Nobody wants to hear you sing. Right. And so I've never liked my voice. And so
that comes down to a confidence issue. Right. Yeah.
We do. Exactly. Yep. We do a bit of emotional work, and then we do a bit of vocal technique, and I can go, so we just proved that you actually have a really nice voice. We just made some little adjustments to so that your ear heard something that felt better physically and sounded better, because we added this more, deeper range of harmonics or something. But I'm like, we just proved your mother wrong, so let's just leave that idea behind you, because
Yeah.
we just proved her wrong.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you're perfectly right. Absolutely. And, depending on how experienced they are in the studio, not very many people are acquainted with how their voice sounds recorded. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that
Um,
is very true, because it
You-
takes every nuance and makes it right there in your face.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, again, you're dealing with, critiquing of yourself and perfecting of your gift. And again, self-acceptance again, as you become reintroduced to yourself in a new medium, and then what component of it has to do with the sound engineer, I need some more EQing here, some increase the mids here, or you know what I mean?
That's one of the things you just mentioned, Paul, that's very true. There's some people that are not as familiar with being in a studio, or they're used to singing in one environment, like singing live outdoors, or singing even if it's indoors but in a big room, and then they go into a studio where they're kind of put in this little tiny closet room, and they have this microphone, and they're going, so now what do I do? Kind of idea. And then the producer or whoever's going, sing, and so they sing, and the voice that comes out is not at all like the voice that would be when they're performing in front of a crowd, or performing outdoors, or performing in a large room. So it's like does that add different stresses to your voice because of the different environment?
Listen, totally. The first time I recorded with my mom, right? Because my mom sings, and she's used to being free, and she's very expressive, and she works that stage. You see what I'm saying? As soon as the headphones went on her head, the way she operated, it was as though she had a noose on. It was like, what is this on? Like, I can't sing with these headphones on my head. And I'm like, no, mom, just remove one of them. And then, every once in a while you can sort of cup your ear to hear yourself a little bit. And she's like, all of that was a little bit too much for her. We eventually had to just sort of give her more of a live experience for her, because she was just more used to that. What I heard, it didn't sound like my mom, like how I know my mom sings, because of just the whole enclosed situation and controlled environment of, okay, do it again. Okay, do it again. Do it a little higher, a little brighter, a little, you know what I mean? My mom just needed to be live. That worked best for her, to do a live recording in her case, so.
Yeah, I remember the first time I used in-ears on stage. It was so offsetting. I couldn't have, it was, its comfort zone was totally gone. So I can relate to the fact you're getting to an environment and you got these earphones on for the first time. It's like, what? This is so foreign. It's so, yeah.
Yeah, man.
The first time I was in a studio, I was actually called to be a backup vocalist, and the person who asked me to sing knew me to be the big singer. And all of a sudden I was put into this room, and literally, like your mom, I was like, now what? And instead of the big voice they were expecting, this little tiny thing came out, kind of idea. So they went, this is not what we wanted. Let's change things around a bit.
Little timid Cheryl showed up.
So how do we get now being in the studio? Is that just a mind thing? Is that just getting around the thought process of I'm no longer in that live experience, and therefore I have to be I have to think differently? How do I explain that? When being in the studio, do we just have to adopt the mindset that we sing the same way we would live, even though the environment around us is different? In other words, what's the mental state we need to be in for the studio?
It's a retraining. it's essentially a retraining, learning how to do what you've done in a more professional setting. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's like a retraining. You have to. It's a new skill, essentially, that you have to learn. Even though you are a vocalist, it is a new. That's what it is. You have to. Well, that's what I feel it is. You just have to learn the ropes, essentially, again, or
Yeah. Does it have a different stress on the vocal cords though? In other words, singing in a smaller environment, is it expected that we're going to strain our voice a bit more because we're having to adjust? Like, Noreen, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that depends on the individual, because I think some people find it easier to record in the studio, and then live is harder. It just depends on what you're used to, and like just what you said, it's an adjustment of getting used to that. So yeah, it just depends on the individual and what kind of strain, or if anything becomes stressful, if they find like it's too new and stressful and I'm in this dead room and I don't hear reverb, and so that makes me feel insecure, and then suddenly everything's a little bit tighter. That I think it's more the emotional connection to feeling in a different space and trying to navigate a different space might lead to some strain.
Well, to add to that, the performing again and again could add to emotional and vocal strain. Like okay, do it again and do it like this. Okay, do it again. Oh, you were flat here. Do it again. Just that extra magnifying glass that goes over your voice. It could cause emotional strain. Just the fact that, oh my gosh, I thought I was better than, I thought I could actually do this. And so you really need to have a decent rapport with your engineer or the vocal producer, whomever that happens to be. In addition to that, it could create a bit of extra strain with you having to sing again and again and again, especially if you're doing backup vocals as well as lead vocals, when you're having to double parts and even triple parts. You know what I mean? Or layer.
It's funny because that's where I was going, Paul. It was exactly what I was going to say, but in the sense of it, and you're in the studio, it's very technical, and when you're live, it happens as it happens, and you have to, you make a mistake, you have to keep, But in the studio, they can fix it, so you go back and do it again. And for a first-time person, or for someone who hasn't been in the studio before, it might be like, okay, what did I do wrong the first time? They're over-analyzing instead of being in the moment and trying to feel the right note. And if you have a good voice coach, I think that's a strong thing. And that's something I want to ask of you guys about. When you go into the studio, how imperative is a voice coach?
I think it's really important, partly because one thing that ends up happening to me is I get clients, once they've recorded their album in the studio, and then my part of it is like they go to perform it live and they can't do it live. And so my job is to make up that gap, is to help them get to the point where, okay, you had a week to hit that note in the studio and you had 100 takes, and now you got to do it live. And it's not happening.
No, that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
That's the job that I end up getting, or I get a call from somebody who's, they're about to go on the road and they blow out their voice in all their rehearsals because they haven't had to do it that often, so I'm kind of looking at this from this other end result of like, if you call me in when you're recording or before you get on the road, then we can work through some of those issues. And then also, like I've sat in recording sessions where just me being there and talking them through different and giving them like, okay, let's try this little vocal technique thing. That's the tone they want. And they'll be like, I didn't know I could make that tone. And then suddenly we don't have to pitch correct them, and they're like, I'm no longer flat. I'm like, yeah, because we fixed the thing that was technically wrong, and they like their sound better, and then they just jump into the rest of the recording because all I've done is gone through their song and made little tweaks to go, oh, this is going to throw you off, and this is going to add tension, and you're not going to like the sound here, and this word takes it completely off and gives you a weird pinch tone. So we're just going to, and then we work through a song in like 20 minutes, and they go to record it, and it just feels good.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have all these like, that doesn't sound right, but I don't know how to fix it. There aren't all these like, oh, I hate how that sounds, but I don't know why.
And that's the big P word, practice.
Yeah.
Before you go into this, I mean, a lot of artists say, well, I wrote the song, why do I have to practice? Well, when it comes to arranging the vocals and the musicality of that, it's a practicing thing.
Yeah. And I've had people, they've sung this song and they know it really well. And I'll be like, you could have gone for that
Mm-hmm.
big note at the end. Is there a reason you didn't? And they're like, oh, well, I just can't do it. It doesn't sound right. And I'm like, well, what if you could? Why don't we do that? And then we work it out. And then they're like, oh, my recording now has the big note that I wasn't going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Paul, what's your opinion on vocal coaching during a recording session?
My goodness. Yeah, it's good. It's good as a preemptive strategy, like just to being a sort of proactive with your career or with what you're trying to accomplish. Just as my friend here, as she was suggesting, just going through with a fine-tooth comb, getting the technique right, while you're performing it, ironing out all of the kinks, working out even if there are word changes that would need to be required. Instead of an E vowel here, maybe another word that can give you an ah. See what I mean? To open it up a little more, And then by the time you get to an actual live performance, you've gone through a lot of the technique and then you actually have something to practice with to prepare you for a live performance. You have a bit of theory to apply as you practice.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like a toolkit. You have more tools in your toolkit when it comes to performing. I agree. Yeah.
Exactly. And it takes out a lot of the guesswork. Yes,
Very
it is.
true.
It is. It's a very good thing. And you know what? Regardless of how mature you are as a vocalist, because there's always room for improvement. And there's always something that you could stand to learn and would benefit you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I was in the studio a long time ago, and this producer that I was with was very understanding about vocalization. And he was able to say, on this perfect note, it's tone right, but let's just drop your jaw a little bit. Little things like that bring out the nuances that you as an artist who just sing may not hear. But someone who has the ear can say, you know what, in this part, I need you to put your feet at shoulder length apart and and set you in a place where you can hit those notes strong, not just good.
Absolutely.
What are a few things people can do to get out of their own head if they are in the studio and kind of, what do I do? Any suggestions?
Okay. It's interesting because some people enjoy being in their head and function really well there. So, I happen to be one of those people, but so I'm like, okay, why would you ever want that? But I do realize that there are some people who it doesn't benefit them to, and if that's the case, then certainly if you're a child of God, if you're a Christian, worship, truly worship, just lean on Christ, just lean on your beloved and allow him to carry you through. Those who have a relationship know how to access the glory that's in his presence, so just access some of it, just get into his presence, and goodness, getting out of your head, having a loved one around, somebody who can help you with that, helps to get out of your own head. Yeah. The easiest way to do that is maybe to get in someone else's head. I listen, I don't even.
You
Actually,
helped
there's
I love
wisdom
it.
in that.
like
Yeah.
my thoughts. That was good.
Yeah. Getting somebody else's head. That's a very cool. Because it's funny because the producer I worked with, one, he was like, okay, man, let's just take a break. Come in the studio, come into the engineering booth. We'll run this. Okay, are you hearing what I'm hearing? I'm like, oh, okay. And then you go back, and all of a sudden you have a different perspective if you hear it from his point of view.
Mhm. I would say I have two thoughts about that now. Thank you, Paul, for giving me time to sort that out. One of them is I think often when people talk about I'm in my own head, it's that the judgment in their head is really harsh. I think there's voices in their head saying really mean things to them that are completely not useful at all. And I've had a couple students where they'll sing something and it's going really well, and all of a sudden I'll see something in their face change, and I'll stop and go, so what lie did your head just tell you about what you just did? And they'll be like, oh yeah, something just popped in there. It said like, that's horrible, you're never going to get this, or all these voices that judge us really harshly. And and I'll be like, yeah, that voice, I was like, where did that voice come from? Who's the first person to, what voice in your life gave you that judgment that was so harsh, that's unnecessary? And then like we'll talk it through a bit, and then I'll say, well, I'm going to just tell you a little secret that pretty much all of that time that little voice is lying, and it's not useful at all. So if you can just get in the habit of going, I'm going to live in the present, and I'm going to just live in the moment and be in the present. And I'm going to tell if that voice tries to pop up and say something that just doesn't help the situation, that you can I just tell my students, like, just tell that voice to shut up. And after a while, it just gives up. It doesn't anymore. Cause that's kind of when I think about, I'm in my own head too much. It's that constant judgment that takes us out of living in the moment and enjoying the process, and being like, I can sing and I really love it, and it does something for my soul, and I'm not going to let something get in the way of that. I'm just going to enjoy it. And then if you've brought your absolute best to a moment, you've prepared, maybe you've worked with a voice teacher, and you're bringing your best, and then you can just be like, well, I couldn't have possibly done any more to put myself in this moment than I already have. So this voice has no power over me.
Is that a common thing that you would see? People get into their own head. Are there any other like mistakes that singers make that when they go into the studio that gets in their way of doing the best performance?
Yeah, to me, it's the judgy voice that can just derail a lot of good stuff, and especially in the studio, because you're hearing it, it's so presently, and you don't have an audience who's giving you this positive feedback and giving you this great positive energy.
Yes.
You're in the studio and it's just you in your head, and you don't have all that feedback.
Absolutely. No, that's true. The affirmations is something you get instantaneously when you're performing, and you don't get that in the studio. Yeah, I totally get that.
While we are here, I wanted to get into some of the other challenges that we deal with. Now, we've been advertising this is about the voice, right? So I'm kind of going, okay, it'd be great to talk about some of the challenges in the voice, like dealing with going flat and sharp. I guess that's pitch, and maybe being able to hold notes longer. Like what can we do with that? But I also want to remind you again, you are with GMIHub Online. I forgot to mention, because you're on YouTube, I hope you are a subscriber, because if you haven't subscribed, you need to subscribe. Why? Because then when you subscribe, you get automatically, when we go live, you get the link right away of all these great episodes that we are running. So go ahead, subscribe. Next thing you need to do is you need to share the experience. The link is right on top of your screen right now. Just highlight it, copy it, share it with your friends, share it on social media, share it with anybody, your friends, your enemies, whatever. Just share it because this is valuable information, especially for anyone that is wanting to go into the studio, wants to record. And really, in a way, we're trying to save you some money, because you don't want to record and then have to re-record because your voice didn't work. We want to make it so it does work. So that's the two things. 3, check out GMIHub on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You're already here on YouTube and on our website, gmihub.ca, where you find out all the tidbits of what we are doing and what we are wanting to do for you. We also want to hear from you. So if you want to contact us at contact@gmihub.ca. We'd love to get your feedback on some of the things that you would like to see here on GMI Hub online.
Yes.
Okay. I'm still waiting for Paul, but Noreen, help us out. What are some things that you can offer as, I'll throw some stuff out. We talked about pitchiness, going flat, sharp. What can a person do to help lessen or eliminate the going flat, sharp, and helping them to stay more on tune? What are some things or techniques that that a singer can keep in mind when they go into the studio?
Usually the culprit, I mean, in the most simplistic form, the culprit to pitchiness is rarely the lack of a musical ear. I mean, that's kind of an obvious thing, but for most people that I find that sing off pitch, who are just amazing singers, it's not about their musical ear at all. It's really simply, it's just there's little groups of muscles that are getting involved that are just taking away your ability to sing on pitch. You know, they're stretching the vocal cords in ways that make you can't quite get there, or you overshoot it. And it just, those muscles get involved and they give you a little less control over things like pitch. And one of the things, I mean, usually if we're talking about like the top of your chest voice. So if you're unfamiliar, like chest voice is where most people, it's their speaking range. And then, and so for a lot of people, the top of their chest voice is where they start to get pitchy. And usually it's flat because they're straining to get up there. And one of the things that I work with my singers to do is, and it's kind of counterintuitive, and it takes a while to relearn, because it's like our bodies are like, what? I didn't know this was a thing. But it's all about where your Adam's apple or your larynx is moving when you're singing. So if you put your hand on your neck and you swallow, you can feel that bump go up. And if you go to yawn, you can feel that go down. And ideally, with people who are always in control of pitch, this little bump will stay mostly in the middle, no matter where they are in their range. And that's easier said than done. It's for most people, most singers I meet, I have to fix that, and we have to work their voice to a point where they get used to this being balanced all the time, no matter what note they're singing. We have to work really hard at that and just introduce it as a whole new way of singing to the body. And it's often a bit of a fight back and forth. I mean, we always get there because the technique just works. There's like a logical path to it for every individual, and unless they have a lot of vocal damage, that's like the exception. But for pitchiness, there's vocal technique solutions, and then one of my kind of, it feels magical to people solutions, it's so easy, is respelling a word. So if a word is kind of landing in a spot that tends to feel out of control pitch wise, they have trouble going, and it's either going flat or sharp, I might just slightly respell it, because if you put your hand there and you say a vowel like if you say the word cat, you'll feel that pop up. Where if you say the word book, it's gonna either stay in the middle or it might go down a little bit. So by adjusting what word you're singing and slightly respelling it, I mean, no one's gonna know that when you sing the word away and it feels all tight on the away vowel, that if you respell it to away, like EH instead of AY, that suddenly what that actually does is it physically moves the larynx back down and disengages those muscles. So it just feels, I'm like, well, just sing this word instead. And it feels magical. They're like, oh, there's the tone I wanted and I'm not flat anymore. And we can go through a song and kind of just do these little respellings, and suddenly the whole song feels different. And they don't need to be pitch corrected in the software later, because we solved the reasons, the muscles that were getting involved. We got them out of the way.
That's awesome. I hope you took note of that.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I like to approach it from an ear training perspective, right? Just having your ear trained and having that mind larynx connection, I guess you can call it. Noreen emphasized maintaining a neutral larynx position, which is, yes, indeed, extremely important. She also mentioned that at the top of your chest voice range, often a great deal of tension and a lot of cause for pitchiness and like specifically being flat. And obviously, yes, the linguistical side of it, in particular, if you have the type of accent that has sort of contained with it a lot of sort of E vowels, if you're naturally a very high larynx kind of person, just sort of, you just talk up here all the time, and you sing the vowels very similar to how you speak, then you're going to have some issues. So just like Noreen said, rewriting the words or just sort of, emphasizing specific vowels over others, you know what I mean? Certainly, all of that excellent advice. To correct pitch, some people intuitively know what to do to correct their pitch, especially the more experienced singers. There are some things that intuitively, that they sort of know what to do. It really is just a matter of ear, that just really hearing correctly. It's because it could also be a matter of, am I hearing that note correctly and mimicking it and matching it the way it's meant to be sung?
So in terms of the hearing, would you say the monitor mix has a big play or a big part to play in helping someone grab and hold a note?
The monitor mix, you know what? I'm not going to put the responsibility on the monitor mix. I'm not, just because for the vocalist in a booth, the monitor is really just the headphones, right? Mm. And at that point, like okay, you're gonna have one ear on, one ear off. Some people do it like that. The monitor mix, like I said, if you have a good handle on, first of all, the key that the song is in, and some singers have an intuition for it, so it's in the key of, say, let's say it here, it's there, and just sort of, moving along the melody line, just being in sync with what the key is, and just having a good ear, because a lot of singers, if they can hear it, they can match it. They sort of know what to do, even if there is poor technique involved or not, to match a pitch specifically. And if they match the pitch and they match it a little bit nasally, or they match it a little bit strained, they can at least match the pitch simply by virtue of having a well-trained ear. You understand? and they can match it. And then if there are issues surrounding tonal quality, then you can always correct that. But I think there is an element of having a well-trained ear involved with pitch.
Okay, are there any particular warm-ups that people can use to help them kind of help them with their pitch that you would recommend? If there's just one warm-up exercise.
Noreen?
When it comes to pitch, I would give them a warm-up that covers it covers quite a bit of range. I don't know, I don't have a keyboard by me right now, but like an octave and a half scale that I use quite frequently. But I would set up a controlled environment of a certain vowel and consonant combination that's going to give them the best chance of controlling all the muscle situation going on. And so that in their warm-up, they're as balanced as possible before they jump into a song. They've kind of set their body up for success because they've created this controlled environment of this, like, so I might do like an vowel, like look, but I might do it on it depends on what they're going for, what kind of sound you're going for, but I might do it on like bu, 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 like book, or I might do n, like nook, because those are going to set the voice up to be more balanced. Before you go to sing, your warm up is this like perfect little balanced environment.
Mm. From an ear training perspective, you know, it's always good to have that to have your ear trained before you go into recording. Like, it's the type of thing that if you're thinking about recording, at this point you should have a good ear. You know what I mean? To be thinking about training your ear. Okay, here I am. I'm going to record now. Let's work on my ear training. It's like,
yes.
oh man.
Yeah.
So, but generally before, like, you know, a couple of months, let's give it a half a year, 6 months before you actually think about going into it, to do a little bit of prep work. I have an exercise, like a pitch matching exercise, just to help. One of it is like, I just give you a funky sequence of notes. Let's say it's, sorry, like that. Repeat that. Oh, use a different vowel. Try ah. You see what I'm saying? And then it might get a little more funky, like, you see what I'm saying? Oh, that's kind of jacked up. Hold on. See what I say? Like sort of half tones and stuff. And just to see how well you can mimic the sound. All right? Or I might just do a single, so it's like, see what I'm saying? Just to help with being able to identify and adjust the length of your vocal cords to the actual pitch, you know? Yeah, so that's just a little thing. But if you're recording, you know, it's kind of too late to actually, you know, think about training your ear, you know?
Yeah.
So is there any exercises, like little vocal exercises you could recommend before going into the studio?
For ear training specifically?
No, just for your voice. If you're not having a problem with hearing or notation and you're knowing what you're doing, but you want to have a warm up, you know, those kind of things. What kind of things do you recommend?
Oh, okay. First of all, what kind of performance are you looking to have? Are you going to have a lot of dramatic sounds? Are you going to have just a nice head voicey kind of performance? Is it, you know, are you doing Gaither's songs, you know, with those dramatic tenor notes? Or are you doing like a, you know what I mean? Depending on the type of vocal performance, it's good to warm up in a way that prepares you for that specifically. So if it's going to be a lot of mixed voice vocalization, it's good to warm up all of the components of the mix, you know, the head voice, to have a nice sort of well-rounded warm up. If it's going to be heavy chest voice, like a bellowing type of situation, then you're going to want to set yourself up for that. Obviously, when it comes to chest voice vocalization, take your time with it. You know, you don't want to warm up to the point that you've exercised the voice and you can't really sustain an entire studio session. You know what I mean? If it's a breathy kind of performance that you're looking for, some people like to record a breathy kind of sound. Warm up like that, work on a bit of those sounds, just produce some of those sounds, and then, you know, that's the warm up is gonna sort of, I feel like you should prepare for the type of performance you're going to have, you know, with the warm up. I'm not of the mind that every warm up, well, there are some warm ups that are good regardless of the type of performance you're going to have. Like, I feel like lip trills are always great, just because of the exhalation and the breath component involved with lip trills. It really positions you for, I guess, an ideal type of exhalation. You know what I mean? It just sort of like, you know, it helps just to position you for the correct exhalation for breathing, you know, for singing. Exhalation for singing. Yeah. You know, a lot of chest voice sounds, just to work a little bit on that compression, just a little bit, don't overdo it. I don't know. I guess, Noreen, what do you say?
Yeah, I agree that often I'll create a warm up for somebody that's, if they're going into the studio and we've worked on the song, I'll create a warm up that's specific for that song. So if they need an effortless, big, belty sound that goes on forever, the warm ups that we create will contain all of that. So when they go to do the song, their voice is set up for success. So yeah, it depends on the song sometimes, but for kind of, I have like a catch-all warm up that you could kind of use at any time. You could use it in the middle of a performance, or, you know, you off stage for a few minutes, or if you're speaking and you're a bit vocally tired. The kind of the big scientific obsession of all my vocal colleagues right now is the straw phonation. And I've got a little coffee straw here that there's two options. I'll quickly explain why they work. But you can either do this little coffee straw situation, or like a big boba size straw on a big cup with water in it with a lid. And what's interesting about this, and I've actually watched these warm-ups being done watching a live scope of the vocal cords, and it's fascinating just to see what's happening and what's different. But what happens with this, either this tiny straw or with the large straw in the water, is that you have the vocal cords here and they're resisting air from the lungs. And with the straws, with the straw phonation, you get a back pressure of air coming, and back pressure of air and sound waves that go back on the vocal cords this way. So you're getting them massaged this way and this way. And this just doing, I do some scales, I run some scales, but then I have kind of a go-to, like if you're starting to feel a little vocally tired and you've just run like your first set or something, or you've been in the studio, and it's kind of a crazy little reset button, which is wild, because once you feel it, you're like, oh, I feel completely different vocally after 5 minutes of phonating through the straw. So I do just a series of slides, and I make sure it's not a breathy sound. It's a very relaxed, light sound, and you just kind of puff out your cheeks a little bit. So I'm gonna do, this is just my go-to. This kind of works for anything because it's that instant massaging from both angles here. So I'll do 4 slides. So I'll go progressively higher. So I'll go, and I do that for 5 minutes, and already my voice feels different. And it's kind of, yeah. And I've watched actual scopes of watching how the vocal cords kind of get massaged and they kind of relax and muscles disengage. It's really
that's fascinating, because you got the air pressure coming on both sides of your vocal cords, and it's doing
Yeah.
this type of thing. That's amazing. Science. Hey.
Science. I know, right? Yeah, I've been obsessing about this for a while, but now, like, if you look on YouTube and look up like straw phonation for singers, there's probably a million videos on it right now.
That's great.
The thing. But for my people that I've been studying with and working with, it's kind of the big deal right now that we've all been obsessing about and learning about, and they've been doing actual scientific studies on, which a lot of vocal science has been guesswork, and it's nice to have people doing actual, like, watching the vocal cords and observing them and seeing what affects them and what doesn't, and what leads to vocal damage and how to undo it and all of that. It's so fascinating.
Yeah,
It's interesting. Straw phonation has been just a recent obsession of mine as well.
And it's recent science.
Yeah. It's crazy. I've been trying. I mean, I had sort of similar little glimpses of it in certain things, like this. Remember this exercise, the blowing out the candle? You see what I'm saying? Or even
Yeah.
I don't know if to a certain extent lip trills accomplish a similar thing.
They do.
Yeah. But obviously not as dramatic, right?
Exactly. Yeah, lip trills provide that same back pressure of air. But with the straws, you get more back pressure and actual sound waves feeding back.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool.
So that frequency or the vibration is maximized with the straw, where the trills, maybe it's coming through your nose and it's maybe dispersed differently.
True. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, you want to make sure that your sound is coming out of the straw when you're doing that.
Yeah, it's concentrated to that small area.
Yeah, you should be able to plug your nose doing that, and it should sound exactly the same.
Exactly. So that's what that's the difference, I think.
Yes, I also heard that it can help to bring the sound forward, as opposed to if someone deals with a lot of nasality, just bringing the sound forward. That's
and it's also moving that resonance from here to here. That's hard for some people, because they're singing like up in here, and then they bring it down here, and it's hard sometimes for people to bring that into a different range.
Yes, indeed.
I have a question from one of our viewers asking, how do we get a good vibrato?
Ooh, that's a tricky one.
That's a good one.
Okay, one thing I know, there are divided schools of thought when it comes to vibrato. It's you have the traditional, more European influenced style of vocalization that sort of feel like it flows naturally when your voice is sort of unencumbered. It just sort of, it happens naturally. You just allow it as you sing with a free voice. It sort of happens. And then there are other schools of thought that sort of, they would say that you should be in control of when it happens and how it happens, and the speed at which it happens, the frequency of the wave. You know what I mean?
I'm probably in that same school, because I see a lot of great singers, but their vibrato distracts from their tone.
Yeah. I'm of the latter school. In my experience, it's been a much better experience for me to have autonomy of my vibrato, and when it comes and when it goes, it's sort of within my control. But the issue is the fact that it requires a deliberate bending of the pitch with a certain frequency that takes quite a bit of practice. And even that technique, how to actually accomplish that. Some people do it with a little bit of breath, and then when you try to include breath in that, you know, some voice coaches would say, no, 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 don't use your breath for vibrato. Like, what? Why would you do that? You see what I'm saying? And then sometimes for some people, it's actually you know, a consistent and frequent bending of the pitch through in their larynx, literally the vocal cords stretching and contracting and stretching and contracting as they literally sort of but even to be able to do that, it's difficult to teach a new singer because of the amount of coordination it takes to have a consistent type of frequency in your vibrato. You know what I mean? So it's a very interesting challenge. And some people have an easier time with it. Some people really do get it. I have an exercise. It's just sort of like a, hey, 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 hey. See what I'm saying? And then moving up, hey, hey, hey. See? And stylistically, as a vocalist, I use the breath vibrato as well as the larynx vibrato. You know what I mean? Depending on the effect that I'm going for. So listen, that's my take on it. I know what works for me. And
there are some people though that would find it really easy to sing vibrato naturally. That's just part of their tone.
Yeah.
And yet then I don't know, maybe you could speak to this. Is it hard, Noreen, for people who have a natural vibrato to pull it down so they can get a level pitch?
Yeah, and I agree that my school of thought is that it's ideal if we can learn to control it. You know, if it's not just a default and we can't control, vibrato happens and we have no control over it. And then I love what you said about like different genres require different. When I'm singing jazz, it's that between the notes vibrato. It's not a natural vibrato. That's what I put it on. You know, I sing, you know, with the half step. The that's my jazz vibrato. My gospel vibrato is like a whole step down. My operatic vibrato is like a third of it. Well, not a third. That's a little much, but but you know, like they occur differently in different styles. Physically, it's a result of different vocal styles causing a different level of compression of the vocal cords that can encourage different types of vibrato. So yeah, I like to kind of dig in and go, well, what kind of song are you singing? What style vibrato do you need? And then, yeah, with people who have kind of just out of control vibratos, like can't turn it off, we work on, I'm like, well, you don't speak with vibrato. So obviously you know how to do a straight tone. And so we kind of access speech. We kind of access, you know, access the left brain a little bit more. And so we start with a spoken note, and then we're like, oh, well, you can do that here. Remember that sensation. You're speaking and you're just holding it out. And then we learn to, okay, now you're going to do a straight tone. Now you're going to add vibrato. And then I also have some tricks, because I get students, singers who just can't do vibrato at all. And so I have some tricks to get them to get that flowing, and then we learn to control it.
And then you know what? There are also some skills, some little vocal tricks that you need a particular kind of vibrato to accomplish. Like in, say, musical theater, sometimes you'll have to hold a tone, no vibrato, and then gradually bring it in.
Yeah, that's like signature.
There you go. You're only a day away. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And like a singer, a vocalist like Sade, right? My goodness, just such a beautiful no vibrato tone.
Gorgeous.
Like my Lord, absolutely gorgeous. So goodness, it's good to learn the variety, just like
Yeah.
for the style. Yeah, totally, totally. It's a really wonderful topic, vibrato. It's challenging, and yeah, it does take a good assessment of the singer's need to sort of figure out, okay, what approach should I take to teach this? Yeah.
Now, we didn't even touch on this, and I don't think we have time to really unpack it. But what about falsetto? Is there for men? I think pop music, especially, a falsetto is kind of one of the tools that really do work well. But in your opinion, falsetto, is that something that artists should be thinking about?
Yeah, certainly. The thing about falsetto, just because people have difficulty distinguishing between falsetto and head voice, you know what I mean? Um, some people naturally have more compression than others, or more chord closure just naturally, and so and they'll still call it a falsetto even though they have so much chord closure, and it's like, well, okay, it's falsetto, but then there's your voice, it's connected up there, you know what I mean? Because I feel like for falsetto, there's a bit more breath involved, you know what I mean? A true falsetto has as little chord closure as possible. And as far as the use of vocalizing without a great deal of chord closure, there's I feel like there's less utility in that. There might be, but like, you know what I mean? For the most part, you
The
might
Bee
want
Gees did
something.
pretty good. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I hear you. But the thing is, you might want a little more chord closure, and then that would be a head voice, essentially.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So
I just hear a lot of pop music, especially they go, they flip between the notes, and they
but
bring
okay,
part of it, even the chorus, they'll go to a high falsetto and back to the
I
natural.
understand. I know what you're talking about. And people, they define falsetto simply based on the contrast between chest voice and falsetto. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of that passaggio break. When you have an abrupt sort of break in register transition there, it just it's a phrase that we went, especially in the 90s R&B. There was this thing that all of them were doing this. No.
Yeah.
No. Like we stopped no. I don't know where that went. But Boyz II Men did it. Like they all did no. Like they all did it. It's so annoying. And usually to see the na when you go to the oo vowel, a little bit less chord closure is involved with an oo vowel. And so it sounds a little more breathy, a little more falsetto-y. But then I feel like there's more utility in the head voice than falsetto. And so, then there is very little difference anyways, just, a little bit more chord closure in head voice. So I encourage head voice use, especially because of the benefits that come about with more chord closure, the fact that you can connect and blend registers a little bit more. And I like to stay in that same vein of register blending. You know what I mean? Okay, well, I guess that's what I think.
Noreen, did you have anything to add to that about
Oh,
falsetto?
I mean, I liked it. I agree. I think there's such a range of, like where it could be head voice, it could be like you're letting go of the chord closure. I think we're on the same page with that description. For me, I think I always want to make sure that especially my male singers have the ability to go up there, so that, because that's what we end up building mixed voice on, is that that range. So I want to make sure they can go there comfortably. But it's important for me that they can access that part of their voice and get there comfortably, because eventually we can build that into all these levels of chord closure that go from this light head voice to a beltier sound that sounds a little more like chest voice, but it's always going to be in that range. It's always going to be in the head voice area, but it'll sound more like the bottom, like there's such a range. you can play with, and it's these tiny adjustments of chord closure,
Mhm.
totally
Mhm.
with
I
you.
feel like to completely let go of chord closure isn't entirely beneficial, like to completely let it go, because you need it to vocalize, you know? You
Yeah,
like
just don't hang out there. Like, do it on one note if you have to, but don't live there.
So you got
there
to
you
sweeten
go.
it a little bit, like salt. It's a little bit of a seasoning. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I just like to thank you guys. We're wrapping this up. I have one last question that I'd like to just close our question time. If anything we said already, you can repeat it. But if there's three things that you wanted to give to a singer who is preparing to go into the studio, three things you wanted to let them know, what would those three things be?
What like goodness, okay. Like my logical brain is being fried just by trying to, because I'm okay, what kind of singer is it? You know what
Okay,
I
no,
mean?
but I mean, there are three general things. Like, for instance, one of the things that I was all stressed out about because I didn't really have any experience in. But if you even have experience in a studio, it's it's like here's one thing I had to learn: just relax, try to shake it out. And
Okay.
like when you're getting into the studio, it can be really stressful because, like you say, all you hear is every in the mic is there, and you're
Mm,
like, I don't want to do this wrong, or
mm.
every little thing is amplified. So I had to be just relax. That's one advice that
Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Can I borrow that?
you can
Relax.
you can have. It's free. It's absolutely
Thank you.
free.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Because and not just relaxing, do what you can to cultivate as relaxed an environment as you can as you're
Hmm.
there. You see what I'm saying? I feel like just knowing that you're on the clock as well and time is ticking and you're on a rate, like, oh gosh,
Hmm.
$25 an hour for this. Like I
Hmm.
better get it right. Even like that alone is gonna sort of jack you up. Like you hear what I'm saying? Um Having a good rapport, even if you had a deal with the producer that can I pay you on a per song basis? You know what I mean? Like some production situations are like that if you have a production deal or if you could sequin out, so that studio time doesn't become as much of an issue and you can sort of just focus on ensuring you have a quality performance.
That's good advice. I mean, less the stress, the better.
Yeah,
Especially when you're going
totally.
into the studio. Hey, man, that's good.
Yeah.
That was my first thought is like, yeah, minimize the stress and surround yourself with people who ground you and you're safe, you feel safe with, and find ways to learn to manage your stress levels so that
Mhm.
you can just be, because I think so much of successful recording, other than working with a voice teacher and other than preparing for the session, is about that, the mindset you come in with and being in the present moment.
Like I said, you know what? A good relationship, like the
Mm.
person behind the board, or the people behind the board, you have to love them enough for them to constantly be like, correcting you. Like to you,
Yeah.
you have to like them at least. You know what
Well,
I
there's
mean?
a trust there, right?
Yeah,
And
like
they
it
want
has to
what's
be.
best for you as an artist. So you want to make sure
Mhm.
that you're in the good hands of the person who's.
Yeah, because if you feel like, oh man, this guy, he's so rude, like I can't, you know what I mean? Or he's getting impatient with me. And it's like, look, okay, I guess it all comes under the relaxed umbrella, right? Like it does.
Yeah, but a good
Certainly.
relationship, like you said, with their producer or engineer is pretty
Mhm.
is pretty essential.
It is, because they're going to be correcting you a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're the sensitive type, then, you're going to have some issue with that. But even though everyone's trying to produce something quality, right? Some quality, but yeah.
What's your thoughts on comment sheets? That one producer I work with likes to have the lyrics written down with a comment that you can write down so that you can remember what you did on that take and come back and read it and say, okay, that's what I need to do again. You ever heard of that comment sheet? You ever heard of that?
I haven't worked with that. No.
Well, okay. I feel like that falls under logistics and organization. It's almost administrative, that particular part, and how people administer or organize themselves in a studio is, it's within their, like, it's how they choose to do it. You know what I mean? So some people sort of just flow with it with a fewer sort of logistics surrounding it, so a comment, see, sure, if you're that type of person, yes, certainly document, keep a record of where you are, have everyone, with the lyrics in front of them, chord chart if necessary, you know what I mean? And if you're that type of person and you need that, certainly.
I love the way you're addressing this. If you're that type of person who needs to be, that's fine, but
Well, up to the individual, isn't it?
yeah, I get it. It's personal. Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what about health? Any tips related to health and your voice?
Oh man, don't smoke. Don't smoke.
Just smoke when you sing, yo.
Yeah, just smoke that booth with,
Smoke
with
that when
that
you
fire.
sing. Fire. Okay.
Yeah, hydrate.
Mhm.
Yeah, stay hydrated, get a good sleep if you can. There's certain things, like if you have prone to allergies, there's certain things that can dry out your vocal cords. So allergy medicines and alcohol and cigarettes can really just physically dry out your vocal cords. And so if they're sitting there dry, they're not going to be lubricated enough to do their job.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and then you can also, like in Los Angeles, it's always dry. I just don't like it.
Oh, that's too bad.
Hate
Oh,
it.
you poor thing.
No, I like the beat.
Oh, it's just so hot. I can't take it. I was like, shut up.
Things like adrenal fatigue can make your vocal cords, it just feels like they're drooping. They don't have energy.
Listen,
Like,
I've gone through a really bad breakup, like before I got married, a really bad breakup, and I lost my voice.
Yeah.
I thought it was spiritual. I thought it was demonic. And I'm like, what is going on?
Probably, yeah. Stress can, because your adrenaline is pumping so much that eventually they just can't keep up and they stop.
Yeah.
You can lose your voice. There's also thyroid issues. Because thyroid is right behind the vocal cords, and if it's swollen or enlarged, you can lose your voice.
There you go.
If you're too dried out and you sing a lot on when you're chronically dehydrated, or you have alcohol, cigarettes, or a really dry environment, or you have some health issue causing vocal cord swelling, like there's so many things that can lead to vocal cords just not being what they used to.
Goodness.
And a lot of those things, if you can figure out the health issue and you can get yourself hydrated, or you can kind of get to those issues, you can get your voice back. There's there's a lot of situations where you can actually gain that back when you understand what led to it.
So we can talk about like Patti LaBelle, singers like Patti LaBelle, who she just took care of herself, and my goodness, how she's pushing 80. And do you hear that lady's voice?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And then you compare it to other vocalists like, we'll say, Shaka Khan, and people who have obvious substance abuse issues, then you can sort of see, sort of the difference.
Substance abuse will obviously, lead to issues as well. But there really are so many underlying health issues that that can lead to vocal issues.
So there's a great deal of, okay. Yeah.
So generally, health is very important when it comes to the voice.
Yeah,
it's not like a saxophone, like your reed cracks and you just put a new one in. It inhabits the body that you're in, and it's so personal. And life events and health issues can.
Well, Celine Dion had to do that for a while, and there's nobody who takes care of herself any more than she does vocally. That's
Mhm.
her. But she had a problem with her vocal cords, and she had to go through a doctor's supervision, whatever, to do with not singing. She wasn't talking for a longest time. And so, yeah, there's certain things you need to do to take care of your voice. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I do like to work with I like to have a vocalogist, like it's like an ear, nose, and throat doctor that has like a separate fellowship in vocalogy, so that if I there's so many things that you hear damage in a voice, and I don't know what it is unless someone looks at it through a scope. So
Hmm.
so I've accompanied my singers, to their appointments so that I can understand what we're working with, and just so we know, okay, what's the reason that you developed this vocal issue. But yeah, I'll hear it in my studio and go, well, it could be this, but we don't know until we work with the doctor.
Right.
So Celine Dion, she needed to go to a doctor because it was a health issue, or it was physically in the vocal cords or something. Could have
Yeah, I
been
think it.
swelling, and she sang on too much swelling. There's so many things that can happen.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Noreen and Paul, you guys have been so informative. I've really enjoyed talking to you today. It's been a lot of fun. Cheryl is a singer, and I am a singer too, and we both are looking forward to this conversation. So it was so nice to have you join us today.
We didn't even get to talk about riffs. I wanted to
I
talk
know,
about
riffs.
riffs and runs with Paul.
That's
I
okay.
didn't
We'll do
get
that.
to it. So we have to have a part 2 on this. If you guys are up for it, I want to try and arrange a part 2 for this, because
Yeah.
there's so much that we didn't get to cover,
Yeah,
and that's
there is.
okay. I mean, it's the way the conversation went. But guys, if you're in the chat, if you want a part 2 to this, put it in the chat. You want a part 2, and we'll try and get Noreen and Paul to come back, and we can continue this conversation. I want to hear about riffs and runs. I gotta hear this one.
All right, Fabrice, thank you so much. If you're watching the GMI Hub online, it is so nice to have you with us. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done already. Also, hit the notification bell, and that way you'll know the next time we post a video. It'll pop up in your little YouTube warning that we're up on YouTube again. And it'd be great to put a comment down below, and a thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. We really appreciate that very, very much. We're looking for new subscribers every day, and we'd love you to be a part of that. Also, let you know about the website. It's GMIHub.ca. It's there for you to look at. We've got amazing things happening on there. We've got a Hub Happening, which is a monthly newsletter. It goes out through the email. And what you do is you just go in there, hit the little link on the Hub Happening, and give us your email, and we'll send you every month a Hub Happening. And if you're an artist, or if you are a person who's doing events, or maybe you have a song you want to for people to hear, let us know about it, and we will put it in the Hub Happenings. And it'll be, if you give us permission to do so, we'll make sure that the people get informed about what's happening with your music as well. And also, we're going to talk about the Christmas project.
We have a Christmas
Yeah.
project, Christmas compilation, volume 2 is
Woohoo.
coming up, and we are looking for new songs. So if you are a songwriter, we want you to send in your song submissions, and we will definitely take them into consideration to add to this compilation, which we are hoping will get some radio play. We'll definitely put it online. So if you need some more information about that, definitely go to gmihub.ca and go to Christmas Project, and you'll get all the details you need regarding that. As well, maybe you are writing a song, but you're not sure how it's going. I want to tell you about our listening party.
Oh man, this is going to be so cool.
Our
The listening party is not just all about Christmas music. It's about any song you're writing right now.
That's right. So basically, the listening party is this. It's our way of basically saying it's a relaxed environment where we get to hear, or if you're willing, share your song. Just share whatever song you're working on. It doesn't have to be perfectly completed. It just in a place where you can just share it. And there's 3 of our team on GMI Hub is willing to sit and hear your songs and give you feedback, see how things are going. You can ask questions and so forth. So and it's hopefully not just us, it's a whole lot of us that hopefully will be on there.
Yeah.
So it's a safe environment. It's going to be on Zoom. It will not be live broadcast. But if you're interested in participating in that, go to gmihub.ca to events, and you can definitely register to be a part of that event, we would send you the Zoom link, and that's happening on Thursday, May the 13th.
That's right,
At
13th.
7 p.m.
And
At
if you
7
have the song, you want to give it to us beforehand, that'd be better for us to hear it better. But don't feel the pressure. If you don't have it done, to send it to us, we'll listen to it on the Zoom. But it'd be better, I would prefer it to hear the song, and that way I'll be more informed about what the sound of the song would be like.
They'll definitely be there, and so will I. So, and you'll meet some other members of our team that are known for production, for mentoring, for vocalization, for songwriting. There's a team of people that just want to hear. And you know what? Our whole purpose for doing this is to help you. That's it. We're just wanting to help you. Oh, and in case you're wondering, there's no charge for this. This is
free.
Just something we want to offer to you as just a way to help build your confidence and help you with your song.
Yeah, and have a chance to hang out with some people that love music as well.
Yeah. So you're welcome to join us on that. Let's see what else. And again, we're on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Definitely check us out there. We will be back next week. Next week is our business week, music business week, and we are focusing on getting grants for your music project. We have a representative from Factor, and we have a representative from SOCAN Foundation that are going to be here with us. You do not want to miss that. Yeah. But until then, we want to say thank you for joining us. Remember, share the link. It'll still be here on YouTube, and we'll see you next week.
And GMIHub promotes unity, community mentorship, and talent growth. God bless.